Cool9 here with another review for Rush Hour the TV series, episode 11, titled "O Hostage My Hostage," a play off the poem "O Captain My Captain," because this episode involves the captain. It's actually really clever once you start thinking about it. Now, before I actually get into this episode, I do want to say something that I forgot to mention in my episode 10 review. I wanted to talk about Carter in that episode. Carter in that episode, one thing that's happened is Carter's being a little more obnoxious. And he's swearing more. I talked about that before, but he swears a lot more in this, obviously only as far as, the network ratings would allow them. But you can tell they're trying to more emulate movie Carter, and it's actually working. Carter, of course, Justin Hires can't completely imitate Chris Tucker's, but he's doing a good job doing that sort of character. He's being more obnoxious, kind of self-centered, perverted, swears a lot, but in the end will always come out and help people. And I actually really enjoyed that. I actually just really enjoyed seeing Carter basically be kind of a dick and swear a lot. Because that's actually this character in the movies. Now, since I'm already talking about characters, I might as well just lead off with what I usually end with, talking about the characters. This does focus more on the captain, less so a more character approach and more of a her involving her in the plot, which I'll get to when I talk about the plot in a minute. There's not a whole lot to do new with the characters in this, but there's some interesting. I actually like seeing Lee and Carter working together to try to dissolve a hostage situation. One of the things is that there are a couple of obnoxious. There's one main obnoxious authority figure who's running the hostage situation, and good gosh, that's so Rush Hour. In every Rush Hour movie, there's always an authority figure who is just an absolute prick to Lee and Carter. In Rush Hour 1, you had those FBI guys. In Rush Hour 2, you had that guy who came in was like UN or Interpol or something like that. Yeah, it was Interpol agents, I think. And they were basically like, you don't get near this case, yada, yada, yada. In Rush Hour 3, you had that stupid French, policeman who was a complete dick to them and then tried to take credit for what they did at the end of the movie. And so this is actually kind of funny to see, and it's actually something I don't really believe we've seen much in the show thus far. We haven't really seen those kinds of obnoxious authority figures. Other than that, there's not a whole lot, new with the characters. Dee Dee does actually jump in and, was on the scene for the hostage situation and is talking to Lee and Carter directly instead of being at the precinct, talking on the phone doing research. Dee Dee definitely does do a lot more research than she does field work. And I actually would like to see Dee Dee, I really would like to see Dee Dee move out a little bit more than just being basically their information broker. Yeah, really that's about it for the characters. Now I'm going to talk about the plot. Like I said, this episode is based off of a hostage situation involving the captain. I was actually a little surprised that the captain is coming back as being one of the main focuses of an episode so soon after episode 10, which revolved around a case she did 10 years ago, or 10, 15, when she was a detective. So I thought it was interesting. She actually takes up a brunt of the focus in the first part of the episode, and then it moves on to Lee and Carter afterwards. I actually enjoyed this plot. It's very much more story heavy and character interaction heavy than it is action, but there is a lot of comedy in this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Overall, though, the story is actually pretty decent, and I thought they were going to do some big plot twists or something involving getting betrayed, but it actually remains fairly simple. But I won't get into big spoilers because I don't want to spoil the episode in the review. Now, as far as the humor goes, it's... Of course, we generally have Carter making, his normal, quips and stuff. But a lot of the comedy in this comes from the fact that they're going from a hostage situation, and then they cut to Gerald babysitting. And Gerald's just being Gerald, and I swear, all of those scenes were pure improv. They sounded like they were completely improv. And they were hilarious. Man. I am so glad they made changes to the Carter's cousin character from the first movie, because Gerald is easily one of the best things about the show. Another humorous thing is that they actually do make jokes about about cell phones. Because, one of the biggest problems with some modern movies, especially when you get to stuff like horror, is that they basically don't know what to do with modern technology. So they want to use a whole bunch of old tropes, but don't know how to, do it. So they usually do stuff like going, oh no, they'd be like, oh no, I don't have any reception. And they do that in this episode. But we do have Captain Cole trying to text sensitive information only for autocorrect to screw it up, and she's just like, this isn't even English. And that was hilarious. But overall, though, the comedy does come... It's sprinkled with comedy, and I actually felt that it was... I actually felt it was handled pretty well, especially fairly balanced when it comes to the seriousness and then the comedy. In terms of setup, I actually have to say, maybe something I forgot to talk about in the plot, is that this reminds me heavily of that one part of Rush Hour 1, when they're going to make the drop-off for the money, and they're going to hand it off to Sang, and they send in the squad that basically gets, killed via explosion, and then Carter and Lee are trying to tell him, no, this is wrong, I know how these people operate, why would they even do something like this? And that whole setup with the police the police surrounding a building, with Carter and Lee, trying to convince the stupid authority figures from, that not all is as it seems. I actually seem to pull directly from that scene, except, more involved in an episode. And I actually kind of like that. Again, just like with the last time with the whole tour bus thing, I don't know if this is meant to be a purposeful reference to the original movie, but it sure seems that way. And I actually do like that if it is, it looks like they're very much learning how to make references and sort of mythology gags and callbacks to the movies without directly copying them like the pilot did. So it is nice to see that. Now, in terms of action, I really liked action in this. Overall, the action is fairly limited until the end, and that does seem to be a trend. Unless an episode is having a lot of action throughout the episode, it generally tends to wait till near the end of the episode to actually start kicking in some actions and getting a decent action scene, which I don't mind. In fact, I actually do kind of like this build up to the action, especially since you might get a little bit of action, a little bit there, but most of all, it'll come at the end. Now, I am glad to say that they pretty much went back to not doing slow motion. If there was any, I didn't notice, or it's really smaller in one part, because I was so glad. There's only one part, and it's the big fight scene at the end, when that uses this obnoxious sort of cut where it does a bar and it'll show it shows Lee and then some other guy on this side, and it's like, we don't need this. But I did notice that, the fight actually, this big fight was actually, and even the fight before that, was actually framed in a way that wasn't claustrophobic. It's not like the camera is just like, wow, and they're like, fighting, and it's like, really close up. It actually was took a decent amount of space, and it didn't do a lot of jump cuts. So this fight, the last fight was actually very well shot, including, and I do have to make a mention of, in this early fight, it's just sort of a quick fight, Lee and Carter versus, they're taking on this one guard, this one bad guy. and it shows Lee fighting him, and they actually move around this corner, and instead of cutting to it, the camera just slowly turns around the corner till you can see them fighting, and I'm just like, oh, that's a nice little shot. But one thing, I'm not going to spoil the actual context for the fight, but I absolutely love this final fight. It is one of my favorite fights in the show thus far. I'm probably going to end up doing a top 10 fight scenes from the show, just because, good gosh, I love this fight scene. Oh my gosh. This is a Rush Hour fight scene. This is the kind of fighting I want to see Lee doing. Lee fights almost exclusively with this fight using instruments that he's grabbing off the ground. I'm not joking. He's fighting with them, and it's so Rush Hour. This is exactly the kind of stuff that Lee does in the movies, and oh my gosh, it's exciting. It's actiony. It's got these sort of like goofy things where Lee does like completely oddball stuff when he's fighting to take out the guys, and it's like, it's not on the level of stuff like the massage parlor fight, but it's definitely up there in terms of the fights on the show. It's definitely, I have to go back and rewatch all the episodes to check out the fights, but this is definitely up there. One of my favorite fight scenes. And just, I'm excited. You have to go and watch the episode to see it, because I loved it. Now, I already talked about the characters, but I do want to say that with only 2 episodes left in the season, I have a strong feeling like the next 2 episodes are actually going to be getting us back on track with the Triad plot. We're heading towards the season finale, which naturally means they're going to have to start including Lee's sister again. I do really hope that. We've gotten 2 episodes that, a lot of the episodes that aren't, plot related to the overall overarching story arc do tend to be very, very self-contained stories. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing the next 2 episodes in the season, get back to the plot. I really want to see Lee's sister again. And I'd love to see Lee's sister fight, especially a fight with Lee in this almost reinvigorated sense of fighting. This oddball, this more oddball, this goofy fighting that's very much more reminiscent of the movies than what the show has done in the past. And also with a severe lack of slow motion. And I really want to get back to the Triad plot, because I'm actually super interested in this whole plot line of like a Triad like moving into America and Los Angeles and trying to establish business there. I'm super excited to see more of that, and at the very least we're going to get that in the season finale. I know we are. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we get in the next 2 episodes. Overall, this episode was really good. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention in comedy. Captain Cole is on a date with this one guy, and he's just, he's that typical, like, super obnoxious date, and I thought that was kind of funny. Though, I'm wondering if they're ever going to elaborate more on why she has a pet name for the mayor in her phone. Whatever. But anyway, overall, this episode is really good. It's got a good story, good action, and good comedy. I actually do have to say that what I said about in my Rush Hour 2 review, where I was saying that the show takes its approach of balancing its elements from Rush Hour 2, it definitely does that. And these last few episodes, really strengthen my thoughts on that. The fact that it does have a balance of story, action, and comedy. And it does intertwine these in different ways without becoming overbearing with any specific one. Anyway, that's it. This episode's really good. Watch it. So thank you for watching this review of Rush Hour Episode 11, and tune in next week for when I have the... So tune in next week when I have the review for Episode 12 up. Thank you for watching.